Hello, I'm Jack McCauley, and thank you for the introduction. I'm in the process right now of teaching a class at UC Berkeley, and this class is electric vehicle class. I've sort of branched out into electrification, environmental issues. Last year, 2020, was mostly spent on cybersecurity issues. We started off looking at drones, how to mitigate drone threats, so forth. Angela Merkel was had a drone flown by someone who was watching her speech up on stage, and so you can imagine the perception that these things have as a threat. So that's what we were working on, and starting in 2019, really, but 2019 up into 2021, we were also working on cybersecurity here. This place here is my private research facility. We do all kinds of stuff here. There's cybersecurity, as I've mentioned, and vehicle research, so forth. So let me tell you a little bit about Oculus VR so that you understand where I'm coming from. I am a co-founder of Oculus. Company was started 10 years ago, mostly in this facility here. My co-founders didn't have a building at the time, and we used this facility to film our Kickstarter video for the launch of the developer kit, which was a clone of Palmer Luckey's hand-built virtual reality headset with software written by John Carmack. So this is what ended up essentially as the first developer kit, and then we went to the second developer kit. About that time, Mark Zuckerberg started showing up at the offices in Irvine, and we had to open an office in a high-rise, really nice high-rise in Southern California. I work in entertainment. That's been most of my career. 99% of it was working in entertainment, and all of that's down in LA. Los Angeles is where the entertainment is. I'm in Northern California, and the Silicon Valley is probably about 25 minutes or so from here, 30 minutes. So it's been 10 years. Saturday is our founding of the company reunion in Hollywood, and I cannot go because I hurt my foot, and I don't want to walk around on it, so I'll miss that one. But the company was started, and we are all video game people working in the video game space. I've been doing it for 40 years. I'm also the head engineer and Guitar Hero head chief engineer. And so the guys that we're working with at Oculus are also video game people. Brendan Aribe had a company called Scaleform, successful exit, sold to Autodesk. Had a track record, even though he's 35, he had a track record for getting things sold and execution wise. The other guys were younger guys in their 20s, early 20s. Palmer was 19. Palmer Luckey was 19 at the time. So this was the crew started 10 years ago. The reunion's on Saturday. Unfortunately, I can't make it, but all the early people are going to be there. So what is the metaverse and what is cybersecurity? So there's a precedent piece of entertainment software called Second Life. This is launched 19 years ago in 2003. It was a virtual world, and you created an avatar and you walked around in the virtual world, and it consisted of it's a San Francisco company. It consisted of a piece of software that you ran locally on a computer, and then a server located somewhere else where the game was executing. So it was split into two pieces like this. And most games are not written that way. They execute solely on the local machine that you're using, be it PS2 or PS3 or PS4, Xbox, what have you. So this was sort of the genesis of the metaverse, really. Second Life, by 2007, had 1 million users, not bad. And by 2019, it dwindled down to 800,000. And the problem with Second Life is the problem that Horizon Worlds, which is Meta's version of a virtual world, is it doesn't have an intended purpose. There's not a goal. You go around and you go to different worlds and you hang out and you meet people. And virtually, your avatar does, and you're wearing a VR headset. This is an issue that is with the game structure, with the Horizon World structure, Meta's structure of the game. It's gotten a lot of bad press lately, and this is because just because of the visual component part of it. It has pretty strange graphics for a first-party launch title like that. So a lot of mistakes were made, but there's hope there that something will come out of this. It has a similar structure to Second Life in that you have a local machine, which is either a Quest headset, some other computing platform, and then a cloud-based virtual world, and you're allowed to build the virtual worlds too. So why is this an issue with cybersecurity? I will run through my slide deck here, and then we can take a look at what I have been thinking about in terms of cybersecurity. One of the complaints of Meta is that a lot of people are on there going on and with their avatar and harassing other people. So, it's kind of online bullying a little bit like that. They need to put a stop to that. But that's one of the things that's occurring is people are being, sexually harassed and, comments made that you would never make to a person you saw on the street because of your ability to hide behind an avatar. With a pseudonym, you can do these things. So that's part of the problem. The other problem is the structure, which I think Meta is going to head towards. So I'll advance in my deck here. Excuse me. So this me, I teach at UC Berkeley. That's a very early version of a room experience headset. That was not built by us. That was built by Valve Software. And you see the fiduciary sort of QR code-like markers. Those were placed throughout the room. Image processing software recognized those markers and could restructure the room virtually. And on the right, there's the scrolling mouse. I built this in 1987. It was one of the first mice with a wheel on it. I claim to be the inventor of this. I'm pretty sure I am. But I didn't patent it. I didn't know about patents, and later on, I decided to patent things. And so I'm the innovator in residence at Jacobs Institute at UC Berkeley, teaching vehicle engineering, vehicle dynamics, electric vehicle dynamics, mobility, power electronics, motor physics, and things of that nature. And I was a key developer and inventor of Guitar Hero video game franchise. I'll restate that I sold my intellectual property to Activision, my patents, which covered a spectrum of things, including Guitar Hero, and 35 years in video game engineering, closer to 40, math and science, MSRI Institute board member, to research facility in Berkeley, California, a board member, advisor on drug policy at Rand Corporation, trying to tackle the fentanyl crisis in the United States and what to do about it. University of California trustee, Asia Society board member, and I have my own private foundation. So these are the things that I'm doing right now. I'll get back into the Oculus story and a little bit about the cybersecurity issues in the metaverse. I mentioned one, which is harassment and doing things that you would not normally do to other people because you're in an avatar with somewhat hidden identity, able to give people a hard time. It's kind of funny in a way, but it's not funny. And I mentioned I built drone devices that took out drones. This is one of them. It's a handheld device, a 50 watts, takes out the radio on drones. It works. I have not really done anything with it for about a year or so, but I built this to see if I could do it. I built it with stuff I bought on Amazon, not the electronics parts and not that machine cabinet there, the machine black cabinet, but all the other parts, switches and things like that, little cables, antennas. I bought those on Amazon. So it's conceivable that a company like Ukraine could throw something like this together to get rid of an unfriendly aerial drone of some sort, radio controlled drone, but this is what I ended up with, and it works. It also takes out Wi-Fi, various other radios, GNS, GPS, other things like that. I mentioned Second Life, and the Metaverse has a lot of similarities to Second Life. Second Life is a dwindled platform with no user growth in the last 4 years. You would think with COVID and so forth, people would be thriving in it, but it didn't work out that way, which is sort of a warning shot at Facebook and Meta about doing something like this, learning from their mistakes. And one of the criticisms of Second Life, by the way, is that it's not a goal-oriented piece of software. It's like there's not a purpose to it. What are you doing in there? Is it trying to achieve some goal, something like that? So that's the problem with it. And it's the structure of it. It failed Second Life. Why would you then repeat that similar type of thing? In 2021, try to make Second Life happen again with all the failings, and it's very similar, except the graphics aren't as good. It's kind of a strange avatar. But it's designed to run on a Snapdragon chipset and a head mount display, a VR display. So it's kind of got some limitations. I think that Facebook's challenge with it, it's a great idea to have a virtual world where you have a currency. You can actually buy things with the currency of the virtual world. It does get into areas of social credit system though, where if you break the rules, you can't use certain aspects of the virtual world, even though these things are perfectly legal in the real world. It kind of gets into that sort of gray area of what is content violation. So, there's issues with it. The big issue is that if there is, you can create an avatar which is not you. You can buy a headset, you can put it on in a system somewhere and create an avatar which is not you and wreak havoc. And so how do you mitigate this? There has to be some sort of AI component to this to recognize common patterns in users, and then start questioning them. What if you're not this user? Something like that. So this is this 7 layers of the metaverse here. There's infrastructure, human interface, decentralization, spatial computing, interesting 3D engines, VR, AR, XR, multitasking, user interface, geospatial mapping, and then the creator economy. I alluded to this a minute ago. The ability to have a currency and its own economic system, banks and so forth. And you could actually earn assets and earn money in there, be it crypto or something of that nature. And then discovery is, advertising, social curation, stories, agents. It's conceivable that you could actually have people who have no former experience, let's say, and make a movie in the metaverse that people could watch. It's a really great idea, actually. So experiences, a game, social, esports, theater, shopping, so forth. So this is the, sort of the basic structure of it. It's a virtual world, of course, and it's an animated virtual world with most of the features that we have here, but with a different curating and sort of watch over it that you're not having in the real world. So it's challenging to produce something like this. And Mark Zuckerberg really has to take a look at Second Life and see what was done wrong. I'm not going to be too critical. I think though also Facebook is not a video game company. It never has been. It's an advertising company, and it's got a front end that looks like a little bit like a social network, but it's selling ads. That's how their revenue stream. And this is a challenge that they have. Is this is what they do. For them to then transform themselves into a video game company, which is what they're trying to do, is really challenging. They've been better off just buying a studio a couple studios. There's plenty of them. And then putting the studios under the Facebook umbrella, Meta's umbrella, and allow them to work forward. This is what most people do who are relatively new to the video game and or not. Microsoft just bought Activision, which is my former company I worked at. This is what companies do when they don't have the skill set and the ability to do the things that achieve goals and do the things they want to do. So it's technically challenging to do this. At Activision on Guitar Hero, the studio was Neversoft. There's another studio too in New York, but most of the work was done by Neversoft. They had their own software, their own rendering engines. Everything was written in-house. And the reason that is so they could control it, right? They could control the way it operates, and that they could use a interpreted game that's portable to different platforms, right? So the Xbox and the PlayStation and so forth, it's the same binary that's running, and below that binary there's an interpreter that is actually executing the game. So this is the kind of structure that they had, and the reason they do this is so that they could reuse the game engine over and over again, and the experience level and the knowledge level of how to use that game engine existed. And so I would say that they're going to be challenged. Facebook's challenged with trying to create something of this scale without the experience level. And it was kind of maybe a mistake on their part to try to do this without buying the experienced people. Now, when they bought Oculus, they were buying something they didn't know how to do, which was build a VR headset, and we knew how to do that. And they bought the people that knew how to do that. They bought the headset and the buzz and so forth, but they bought the people that knew how to do this. And so I, at the time, didn't really see a good fit for myself at Facebook because I'm a video game guy. Didn't see how that was going to work there. I opted out of going and moving on with Facebook. I decided to just retire and work on my own stuff here. So, but it's challenging, and they have not controlled, I would say, the PR very well. You never launch a game partially. You launch it when it's finished, and you show videos and commercials and so forth like that. That's how it's done, and that attracts the users. You don't show partial and incomplete components of a game and tell everyone how wonderful it's going to be, because they can kind of see what it is. So let's move to the next slide, and I'll tell you, this is the stuff that we were working on last year. Is like, I was unclear how easy or difficult it would be to hack things. I'm not a hacker. I'm an engineer, but I wanted to find out, because I'd heard a lot about this, like how vulnerable is the internet? And there is a tool that you can put on a PC. It's Linux tool. It's called Kali Linux. Has a tool set with it that allow you to do hacking. And we spent the better part of last year messing around with this and getting it to work pretty well. We were able to get still images off camera. I don't think we can do that here anymore, but it is possible to take a video image and so off a Wi-Fi camera. So it's a pretty interesting thing. You could actually deauthorize people from networks. It's so full of holes, security holes. You can steal passwords and things like this. So this is what could be used to hack the metaverse, since this attacks the access point and not the core software component. If I were going to do this, I would use this piece of software here, which you can download for free, and work at it from the access point. That way you don't need to know anything about the structure of the software for the metaverse or anything like that. So stealing passwords, login IDs, so forth, very easy to do with that tool. And the other issue with the metaverse is the vestibular illness or dizziness. And this is a reflex that's in your brain. When we were at Oculus, 10% of the people got sick when they were using the headset. They got dizzy, and I don't believe that's ever been fixed. You can't move your head around in a virtual world without feeling some force on your body. Now, game people like myself are kind of immune to that, but then doing it so long, they're training. I just don't get dizzy from it. But people who are novices get very dizzy sometimes. So this is the big problem we had, how to fix this. And it is partially due to cues that you can insert into the visual system, and also other sensory organs can help fix it, alleviate it. And then the scaling of the game, like how the game looks. So this is not a cybersecurity thing. I threw this in there because I thought it was an interesting thing that the 10% of the people still get sick. You're going to make 10% of your metaverse users have an uncomfortable experience until this is fixed. The room experience, VR experience, where you walk around in a virtual room, helps. But in Quest, you don't get a very big virtual room. It's relatively small. So, the other thing that is when you're in the real world and you're looking around, you're also hearing stuff, and you've got to get the audio portion of this exactly right. And this also contributes to the vestibular illness or motion sickness. So the other thing is we looked pretty extensively at mobile security in the last year or so. There's a lot of security problems with Wi-Fi. I run a VPN on my phone, and I run a VPN on my desktop system. It helps quite a bit. Your IP address is hidden, but you can get into a network on a building very easily and get inside it. You can deauthorize them from using the network, so forth. There's like 2 or 3 main attacks. One of them is to attempt to get their password. The LTE and 5G, 6G mobile systems, the mobile radio systems, are more secure. WPA2, which is the security component of Wi-Fi, is completely vulnerable, and WPA3 is somewhat better. Just briefly, we noticed that when we configured a laptop with Kali Linux, and we could deauth on certain networks, that after we did one deauth, it would no longer allow us to deauthorize anyone on that particular access point until we took apart the laptop and switched out the radio inside. Once we switched out the radio, it had a different, I think it's an IMEI number on the radio or something, and it would prevent you from, it would then allow you to do the same thing again, but then you just have to keep swapping them out. So they've gotten around, the access points are a little bit smarter when they see this. So the thing that is also, there's also vulnerability with the cybersecurity on the tower, where content can be on the tower on, let's say, a storage media, and this is for streaming movies and so forth. You put a cache on the tower, and then the content can be stolen pretty easily off the tower. It's in a computer up there, so you could do that. And I just wanted to mention a couple other things in terms of, cracking the metaverse and software in general, and Wi-Fi security. There's a program called Wireshark that I mentioned can snoop Wi-Fi based cameras inside your home. So if you don't put Wi-Fi cameras inside your home, somebody can sit in a car outside if they know what they're doing and get images. We tried it recently here and couldn't get it to work. Again, I'm not sure what was going on there, but this is, you're a celebrity or a sports figure or something like that, don't put up cameras inside your house, especially in your bedroom or someplace like that. Not a good idea. And it's, again, based on Linux, although Wireshark does run on a PC. I didn't do it on the PC, I did it on Linux. So be careful and protect yourself. So in the metaverse, I just can't, if I were to be a part of that, I would use a separate PC with a VPN network running, and I would not expose myself by doing transactions online. You know, there's fraud on Facebook. Facebook, and if you have a business, this is one that got me. I registered a business account on Facebook, and somebody got a hold of my login ID. I don't know how they did it. Probably similar to one of the methods I mentioned, and then used that to pay for advertising they done on Facebook using my credit card, and there's nothing I could do about it. So this is kind of the stuff that goes on that makes me nervous. So I'm very careful usually. So so you need to protect yourself. Use VPN if you can. Well, this is a question. Is like pattern recognition. You know, a neural net, some structure inside of an access point to recognize attacks would be useful. For the metaverse, it's kind of wide open. I can imagine that the security component of it has not been addressed. I don't think it has. But if you had something you could do pattern recognition, a neural network or AI, and then recognize patterns in users, the language is spoken in a similar way. There's similar structure in the way they use the app, where they go in rooms and so forth. You could probably thwart something from harassing other people. Harassment, apparently, some of the in Horizon World, some of the places that you can go, there's like 5 users there, so it's not too many. But there's people running around and they're doing things to other people, bullying and so forth. So there's got to be a way to recognize behavior like that and mitigate it. You can use a neural net. I do know quite a bit about this. I'm not an AI guy, but I endeavored to learn this in the 90s when these things were being talked about. Now they couldn't run very fast. They're very clock cycle and CPU intensive. Now they can. There's a tensor processor, which is kind of like a GPU that could crunch these large matrices of numbers, and it's now within the reach on a mobile device too. But this is kind of what they look like. You strengthen and reinforce these networks. There's an input layer, a hidden layer, and an output layer, or multiple hidden layers. But this is kind of the basic structure of them. So the advantage of a neural net is instantly reloadable with training data. So a neural net is just an array of memory in a piece of memory hooked to a tensor processor, or GPU. You train it, and then you take that net off, the trained net off, and put it on a hard disk, let's say, other media, then put it back in. It's already trained to do other things. So this is kind of the beauty of it. The portability of the algorithm, the portability of the network. So, and then you can learn attack modes, habituating it, as I aforementioned. And it can run on an ARM processor, but it's pretty slow. You got to run it on a GPU. Snapdragon, which is the Qualcomm Android chipset's a good candidate to run it on. So you could embed a small GPU or very, very fast processor in certain nodes to mitigate these kinds of, recognize these kinds of harassing behaviors and theft and graft and these things. So this is a definite possibility. And I will try to run my video here. This is post Oculus. This, of course, is not related to the metaverse. Kind of is. What we're trying to do is do head tracking. And this video here, I'll run it, and there is a laser drawing this Lissajous pattern on a reflective ball, and you can bounce the ball and track it, and it's a little tiny mirror, electrostatic mirror. So let me run this. It's very short. So that's very, very fast. Its slew rate is very quick. And so we're trying to do room experience VR with head tracking. That's about 6 or 7 years ago. And this was where we were working at the time. So excellent. Thank you. I will now go to the Q&A session here if I can find it on my machine. Yes, here we are. I can take some questions. right now. Any questions from the audience? It says here we are wrapping it up in 15 minutes at 2:15, so I can take some questions. Does anyone have any? Anybody? You want to know about video games or something of that nature? Let me know. Okay, Keaton, Fisher, and Hunter. I'll try to answer your questions. Yeah, thanks for the talk, Jack. I played a lot of Guitar Hero in my day. Okay, so did I. Too much. I'm sorry. What do you think about augmented reality related? I'm interpreting your question, Hunter. Let's see. Well, Microsoft is very conspicuously sort of canning HoloLens 2. I'm not sure why. They may be refocused on other aspects of it. I think augmented reality has a greater utility and greater diversity for different technologies. I think augmented reality, is useful for, one of the things I was in Croatia a couple of weeks ago, and there was there's a factory out there. It's a research facility for vehicles, and I was talking to the guy, and he said, why don't you put augmented reality in a car? Well, kind of already did that. So augmented reality has a play in the real world. I'm not so sure that's Metaverse's efforts. Meta's efforts in the Metaverse are augmented reality. I know they're doing facial recognition. They're trying to do facial gesture recognition now. So, okay, Hunter. He said, "What is your favorite engineering project?" I built a car. We finished it in 2020. I built a car here. And here I have a link somewhere for the car it's in YouTube. Let me see if I can find that, and that should answer your question. That was fun. A favorite, I worked on Terminator 2, the movie. This is in early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, with James Cameron on Terminator 2 sound system. And it was through another company, but it got an Oscar. I didn't get an Oscar, but the sound system did. But I didn't do the algorithm part. I did the coding and the hardware, electronics, and so forth like that. And that was cool. From then, I was kind of hooked on doing entertainment stuff. For sure, that's where I wanted to be. I think is a good question here. What industry do you think the metaverse will focus on researching next? I think they want to create a world in which an entertainment world which you can exist and do your virtual world stuff. This includes of course business. You could actually live in a luxury high rise, even though you live in your mom's basement or something like that. You live in a luxury high rise. I'm not sure how the revenue component of this is going to work out exactly. My hunch is that Mark Zuckerberg is a good businessman. He is. I disagree with the direction his stock has taken. Meta's stock has taken the last year. It's gone straight into the downhill. But he is a good business guy, and he knows how to run a business. And I think that he'll do a correction there. And I think Meta will eventually succeed in some way. But you have to take a very careful look at Second Life, that video game from 2003, and not make the same mistakes. Thank you.